Welcome back to StrategyCast, the show where we uncover the strategic moves that drive today's smartest brands. I'm Lori Jones, President and CEO of Avasec Communications. Today's conversation is about something every marketing leader faces, but few talk about clearly. How do you take a reactive, fragmented department and transform it into a strategic powerhouse? My guest today is Breanne Byrne, a transformational marketing leader who scaled her department from 5 overwhelmed tacticians into a sophisticated AI-powered strategic growth engine. We'll explore how she did it step by step while coaching mindset shifts and building systems at scale.
A competitive edge starts with strategy, and strategy starts with knowing how to develop one. StrategyCast is a leading marketing podcast that serves up strategic insights, trends, and tips to help separate your business from the pack. Tune in weekly as host Lori Jones interviews bold marketing leaders who have priceless wisdom and are willing to share. Each episode explores cutting-edge approaches that have proven instrumental in transforming brands into industry trailblazers.
Welcome to the show, Bree.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, this is like such a meaty topic.
I know.
I mean, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter if it's like an internal team or if you're helping scale an agency as well. It's the same exact thing. Before we get there, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. So I've had the pleasure of working across multiple industries, and in each role, I've been able to work both in marketing and in customer experience, which is pretty unique. But my passion really started when I was working with American Express early on in my career, and falling in love with customer experience just from that brand alone. It was there really that I learned how exceptional services and personalization can really build lasting customer loyalty. And that foundation really has shaped my career as I've sort of navigated the intersection of marketing, customer experience, and technology. I have lived and worked overseas for several years, which really deepened my cultural empathy and open-mindedness, really teaching me how to connect with diverse audiences and adapt strategies to different markets. Those experiences really reinforced my belief that understanding people, what drives them, what they value is the key to any successful customer experience or marketing initiatives and ultimately a business's growth strategy. So as you mentioned, over the years, I've led business transformation, revenue optimization, and go-to-market strategies, always with a customer first mindset. And more recently, my work in technology and AI has been especially exciting as it's reshaped how brands engage with customers, whether leveraging data-driven insights to optimizing marketing or using AI to enhance personalization. I love and really thrive in both innovation and customer focus environments.
And it doesn't matter. It's like you're with Octapharma Plasma now, and smaller company certainly than American Express. Do the same principles apply when it goes to building a team, even though you've got a Goliath and maybe a younger company along the way?
I think so because marketing and customer experience, the foundation of both, really the principles. It doesn't matter if you're in a small company or a large company; those principles still align. Think about all marketing strategies and how you apply them. It's really about how to get to know your customer, regardless of who that customer is, right? They could be in global customers, they could be in one small little area. The principles kind of still apply.
And helping your internal team get to the point that they truly understand the customer
Yeah.
and really what we're talking about today. So take us back to the beginning. What was the state of the department when you first joined Octapharma?
So it was very reactive. And that's where I kind of like called it in this department maturity model. That's the first phase, right? It's your present state where you begin. So think it was traditional, almost flyers in a coffee shop kind of old school marketing, and very small group that did not at the time have a seat at the table with the senior leadership team. And it was all just filtering requests that would come from our different locations, right? So they have an event or so forth. Yeah, exactly. That they'd have an event and they just need some sort of promotion around that event locally and so forth. And so that was really the start of our department. That's what I walked into.
And great people that just needed
Absolutely.
that needed leadership and really knowing what they could do with their marketing expertise.
Yes.
Employed a phased approach with that. I think it's 5 different stages,
Mhm.
really kind of building them out. Can you quickly talk about each one?
Sure. So I touched on the first phase, right? That's where your present state, where you're starting off. And regardless of what direction you're moving in. So let's say you want a new customer base or you're launching a new product and so forth, all the phases still really apply in the same way. So the second phase, after we did a bit of dissecting of and understanding our current state, was really laying the groundwork. And that was where we introduced brand governance. We hired specialized roles. We restructured, and even though it takes time, obviously, to recruit the right people for a team. We kind of laid out the groundwork for what that future state of the department would look like to help scale and really get us to that data-driven, digitally focused, innovative type of team. So
With the brand governance piece of it, was it as rudimentary as a brand architecture and a brand book, or was it more systematic regarding internal processes for the marketing team to work from?
So it was both. And at the same time, for laying this groundwork, one of our very first initiatives was to go through a rebrand.
Right.
And in that rebrand work, we had new colors and new systems that we would put in place as far as requests and so forth, how the logo could be used and what all of our advertising would look like. Now, what was our creative going to look like? So it did have the aspects of building essentially a marketing playbook, not only for how the team works, but then how the business interacts with our team and how they put in requests and things like that. So, I mean, it sounds almost like we were starting from scratch, and kind of in a way we were. But yeah, in that first year, we rolled out our first formal marketing guidelines that we distributed across all our locations and to all our staff.
So how was your team? I know we're still just on phase 2, but I want to dive into this a bit more. How was the team reacting at this stage? I would imagine you were a breath of fresh air for them.
It was an incredibly exciting time because, I mean, anytime an organization goes through a rebrand, it's pretty remarkable because it's such a collaborative, creative phase where you're looking at where you were previously, you're doing competitive analysis and so forth. You're getting to know the customer in a way that you never had before so that you could create messaging and a new brand that would really align with the future state, not only present state of our customer, but future state as well.
That's great. So we're talking about your 5 stages of brand transformation here. What is the third?
So the third was when we started to layer in, it's called the digitized phase. And that's when we started to really take a good look at our our tech stack and the digital infrastructure. We started to work more closely with our counterpart. So we did a ton of cross-functional collaboration. We introduced testing and tracking, and we looked at cost reduction initiatives. All this was part of that third phase.
Right. What was one of the most difficult things? I mean, there's just a lot of tools that are at a stage like that. What was one of the most difficult challenges that you faced, or again, a real aha moment that you had?
I wouldn't say it was necessarily difficult, but there was a lot of work that went into looking at our existing systems and what was working and what was not working. We went through dozens and dozens of RFPs to find partners, new partners, especially if the old partners weren't quite where we needed them to be, either on the innovation side or just from where we were. We were kind of operating more as a small business, and we needed to escalate towards acting and marketing like a mid-sized company.
That's great. I think that stage is really where you've got to hunker down and take a look at many, many different capabilities that are missing in the organization. I mean, it's a tech stack at the end of the day, and really understanding where you need to go with it is
Yeah, and I mean, we would literally draw on whiteboards, the architecture, right? Drawing lines from our core system, what it was feeding into, how our data warehouse. So we obviously collaborated really closely with IT and all the different connections that we were going to have to make, because previously we only had a handful of systems and platforms that we were using. And now we have 22 systems and platforms that we're using. So there is a lot of road mapping on like connecting the dots between where the information was going to come from and how it was then going to feed into the other systems so that they could work almost collectively as one unit. Even though 22 systems, you really want them talking to each other depending on, what the functionality is and so forth. But it was a lot of literally just drawing on paper of how this system connects to that system and what do we need it to do versus what we think it might need to do.
Well, and I would imagine that gap analysis, knowing that, step 4 here, you really begin the planning and implementation. So understanding the gap analysis in order to help you get there is.
Yeah, exactly.
So stage 4.
Yeah. Well, that's when we shifted really from execution of just getting things up and running to intentional strategic growth, right? So, I mean, think about the first couple of stages really is about building and getting things on board, getting people on board and systems on board, which takes a lot of time to get all those things up and running. But now we had empowered the team with automation, with data, so that they could make better decisions. We were becoming more agile because we had the operating models, everything in place to be able to move more quickly than we had before and shift some of our strategies. As I mentioned before, the previous stage was, we started implementing testing. And now we're in a phase of being able to learn from those tests, continue testing and learn more. But this was an exciting time for all of us because we were able to start prioritizing as well, as opposed to just sort of taking things, as a checklist, if you will. That proactive piece really helped drive and improve all of our metrics, all of our KPIs. Because now we were in that phase.
Yeah. Well, and I would imagine as a strategic leader, it's tough to say to yourself, okay, we've got to step back before we can step forward. And that's what those first 3 phases are in setting the table for success.
Yeah, exactly. And what as you're building everything and you're kind of putting all the pieces together, it's hard to shift everything in that strategic way until it's all kind of set up. And even though we were still adding things and making adjustments and even looking at new partners and so forth in the later stages, now that we had sort of this well-oiled machine, we could now trigger and change things and try new things and really look at the big picture of where we wanted to go as a team.
That's great. And then step 5.
So step 5 is that sophisticated intelligence stage where everything is aligned. You have, in our case, we had enabled AI, which allowed us to be incredibly agile. We're advanced in our forecasting, and you have that close alignment with your business units, where they start to become partners and they get a much deeper understanding of what drives marketing and customer experience and what's going to make the organization successful. The last phase is really marketing is no longer a support, just a support. It really is about driving the strategic growth for the organization.
How do you, along with that, a strategic mindset that also can think tactically, I think is but finding tacticians who can think strategically, I think is sometimes, very, very tough for a lot of leaders out there. How do you shift your team from, mentally from being tacticians to this big strategic shift in those 5 phases that you were, really working them through?
They were involved in a lot of this whole process. It wasn't, me and my senior leaders behind a closed door trying to figure all this out. They were part of all of the implementations, the RFPs, the even searching for all these different systems and how we were going to use our tech stack and so forth. Getting them involved really helped them to understand the why. And when you are able to clearly translate the why with your goals and how you're going to work together to get there, then they start looking at things in a different way as opposed to just running through that checklist, right? Of what it is today that I need to get done. It's okay, what do I need to get done today? So that's, the tactical side of things. But then that other part of their job really is, what do I need to get done to make this better, to make, my emails better, or the subject lines better, or the advertising, whatever it is, whatever the functionality is in the department. But really involving them in every single conversation, including the strategic ones, are almost more important, so that they can start knowing what types of questions to ask and how they can then help to get those answers.
For our listeners and viewers today who are in similar situations in trying to build a strategic team, what advice do you have for them regarding, how much time should it take? What sort of training did you do along the way? The mentoring, the coaching, all of that.
So as far as how much time it takes, for each of these different phases in the department maturity, I didn't necessarily know exactly how much time it was going to take until we started that process. However, in the beginning, we would plan that one phase would take approximately a year. That's what we were anticipating. And if it happened sooner, then fantastic. We'd be ready to jump into the next phase. And it's not like it turns on and off. So one day, you're done with phase 2, and now you're ready to move into phase 3. It does happen very fluidly and organically. And so there's not necessarily a strict cutoff, but we would anticipate and plan for about a year to really fold out or lay out all these different phases. As far as like the team and bringing them along and what kinds of activities we did, we did so many different things. I am a big believer of continuing to learn, and so I would always encourage find conferences or podcasts or read books and so forth where they could learn and continue to grow. So we would do book clubs, and I'd give them books to read where they could also not only learn about their industry or their specific skill set, but also learn about themselves, become more self-aware of how they work, what types of environments they really thrive in. Some people are big idea brainstormers, and others are much more tactical and like to get things, done on a list. And so having them become more self-aware about their own strengths and their own weaknesses so that they could then work together and either offer their strengths to somebody else to support them or get help for something that they might not be as strong at.
I love that. How did you balance, empathy along the way with really establishing these very, very high expectations?
I think empathy was really came in the form of us getting to know each other. I mean, on a personal level, as I mentioned, even on a business level, of becoming self-aware of your strengths and weaknesses. But we would do this one activity called Connect Before Content for every single team meeting. And sometimes it was the silliest of questions, like where would you, if money was not an issue, where would you want to take a vacation? To much more complex connection moments where we might watch a TED talk for a quick, 3 minutes and then discuss it as a team. And those really helped to get us really build that team environment because you knew who your people were. You knew personally and professionally what drives them, what gets them out of bed in the morning. Do they have kids? Are they married? And so forth. And it helps to build those personal connections. And then on the overlaying that empathy on the high performance, the reaching your goals and so forth, when you have a connection to somebody, you don't want to let them down. So you're more apt to work harder or, think about team sports, right? Like you don't want to let your team down if you're not working as hard as they are, or you're not reaching your goals the same way the rest of your team is. So it was kind of easy to get into that performance mindset because one, we all knew the why. We all publicly knew our goals. We would talk about them every week in our team meetings. And so we were all sort of driving towards the same thing and helping each other along the way to get there.
I think that's amazing. And with such a young team, I think one thing that, or not just young, but maybe, they didn't know how good they were or how much they had in them, regarding strategy. I guess age has nothing to do with it. But what I've seen with a lot of people is that they use technology, your third phase, as a crutch instead of truly a catalyst. How do you coach your team through the tech stack and utilizing it as strategic insights then to build upon versus just, a crutch?
Yeah, great question. So it really was, and this also is very true about AI as well, and how that can help and it really impact an individual or a team. We looked at it as this is your guide to get more things done, more accomplished, make your life easier, whatever this system was, whatever the capability was. We really taught them it's a guide and will help you make better decisions. But at the end of the day, you're still the one that has to make the decision or the recommendation on how we can either optimize or make something better. So it really, and I think that I don't remember there ever really being a time when someone didn't want to embrace learning a new technology or learning a new system. They always found it very challenging. I think also because for the most part, I mean, we never gave them a system that was going to make their life harder. Everything was meant to make their lives easier or to make them look better. So it was kind of an easy sell.
All about the interpretation of it.
Yeah.
How did you back in AI in place of, human beings? So for instance, the AI agents that are out there right now, or how did you create, as you're creating more efficiency with AI, how did you then back in additional resources for a person to then take on, or, additional roles to take on, knowing that AI was shortening some of what they were doing day in and day out on the other hand?
Mm-hmm. So I'll use an example. Our graphic designer, when she first joined our team, it really was about creating images for social, for online, that digital presence. And with the implementation of AI, we were able to teach her a new skill in how to craft paid media advertising, which she'd never done before. And anyone who's worked in or created ads themselves, there's so many layers to it and so many sizes that you have to make in order for all the different websites and so forth, depending on where your ad is placed. But she was able to learn a new skill, but it also made her life a lot easier because once she created the one ad, it would then automatically adjust it for all the sizing, which she didn't have to do. So it took out that tedious work that she didn't love, and it allowed her then to focus on the creative side of things that she did.
Yeah. We've got a software, an AI tool as well. I can't remember the name of it right now, that does all of our digital ad size versioning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and HTML5 too. So it does all the animations, and it saves a huge amount of time. Quite frankly, so that our clients, can be using that time on media instead of having us, version, 50 different ads.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, AI for us, we are a small but mighty team. It really has been an incredible resource and like I said before, a guide for each person to use to make them smarter, to help with that tedious work that nobody wants to do, to help analyze the data much faster. So really that they can then spend all their time or the rest of their time on the things that they really love, the creative side of things, the strategizing, the brainstorming, whatever it might be.
I love everything that you've just said there, because I think a lot of times people are using AI as the strategic lever. They're not using, their mind and the experiences that they have. How do you prevent the misconception that using AI makes someone a strategist?
I'll be a little bit, it's going to sound maybe a bit tactical, but it is that continuous brainstorming, collaboration, and the meetings that we set up as a team, that where we're discussing the strategy, our goals, our KPIs, and so forth. So we don't even allow, or I wouldn't say allow, but there isn't this space for them to run off and just use AI as that strategic developer of the way in which we're going to move forward. We still have a lot of our strategy talks collectively as a group. Even if it's not with the entire team, it might be a few of us, but all those talks are happening in real time, in person. And so I guess there's just not the opportunity for them to run off and do it in a siloed way, and just rely on the AI.
One thing I love, about our field is that it is changing so much.
Yeah.
Constant. I mean, for the last, I think it's probably changed more in the last 2 decades than the first, 5 decades since, Mad Men. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
technology has shaped it and changed it so much. And
Yeah.
I love that we're constantly learning and growing, and it truly does, I think, take a lot of curiosity to get us there. You earned a certification from MIT in AI for business strategy. How
Mhm.
has that shaped your approach?
Well, it's given me not only one did I just learn about AI, but it's allowed me to think more creatively, to think outside the box on ways in which we could solve some challenges or problems in a different way than we never even thought we could before.
Yeah.
So, which has been fantastic. I'll give you an example in our paid media. Um, in the past year, 18 months or so, we have now gotten to a place where we know exactly, excuse me, exactly the minute someone has seen one of our ads and then literally come into one of our locations. And all of that is because of technology. A huge proponent of that is on the AI side of things. And I don't even know if we would have necessarily thought or known how to accomplish that, especially with the resources that we had as far as people and so forth, to be able to do that as an organization with um, literally one person running it. I just couldn't have foreseen that happening 15 years ago when that technology didn't exist.
Do you mind sharing some of the technologies that you are using with our
Mhm.
listeners today?
Yeah, absolutely. So paid media is a big one. We have fantastic partners with an agency, and the technology, especially the AI piece of it, allows us to segment better, to reach our customers exactly where they are and when they are more likely to engage with our advertising. So that piece is incredibly exciting. For the first time for our organization, we've been able to have that direct attribution, which we never had before. We're also using technology, of course.
Do you
Go ahead.
remember the name of that tech right there?
Pardon?
The name of that technology? Do you remember what it's called?
So it is a proprietary, a customized technology that
Okay.
they have. We have used in the past Simplify with other partners, Stackadack, that helps to have that direct attribution. But the technology we have now was custom built by that agency.
That's
Yeah.
great. I
Yeah,
love that.
it's fantastic. We're using it on the creative side. We're using, of course, as I mentioned before, the sizing piece of for creative work. We're using it for video creation and so forth, particularly on for our social media and so forth. We're also using it since customer experience is also part of our team. We're using it in our contact center. So our chat bot, there's agent assistance. So when people call, the agents already know the answers to the questions. They don't have to go looking it up and so forth. It's pretty remarkable, the technology around contact centers. And we're also using it for content creation, right? So how we're our blogs, our emails, things that we're putting out there on our YouTube and our social media and so forth. It's been a great resource just for that content creation,
I love
where
that.
we can get so much more done in a much shorter amount of time, but still have that piece of creativity where we can refine and so forth. Like you mentioned before, the AI, the technology is not meant to replace, it's meant to make things easier. And that's where we're using it, just to name a few.
Uh, well, that's just a few out of a tech stack of 20. I mean, that's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. I want to focus very quickly on celebrating. You built this incredible team. You had this incredible phased approach. Um, you've really got them, in the right seats, the right people in the right seats. Talk about a campaign, if you would, that you implemented with everyone being involved and the outcome of it.
Yeah. So we've recently established what we've called 360s, and every single person within the department has a role in these 360 campaigns. So we take a customer group. Let's say, for example, it's our customer group that has come into our location one time and then fallen off, right? So from paid advertising, what is my team on the paid media side doing to help bring them back in? And from the contact center, how are they reaching out? Are they doing outbound calling? Are we doing surveys to understand why they didn't come back in? On my email campaign or my email group, what are they doing to reach those customers, again, either in the form of a survey or just to get a little bit more understanding of why that group has fallen off. And then on the creative side, of course, how are they shifting and making new ads that would appeal to that specific group? To help entice them to come back in. And so from end to end, basically from the minute they see an ad to the time they come into our location and all the different touch points, each group that is associated with those different touch points helps to bring together a full 360 campaign to help reach those customers in a way that we couldn't before. And the outcome, I mean, we've seen incredible, only in a few months, great results in getting more of those people to come back in, and also just to get that understanding, that customer insight of what were the things that detracted them, and so that we can improve then the customer experience if it was a customer experience related reason. So it's all been fantastic.
Well, you've provided us the perfect playbook for building a new team, augmenting an existing team, and really just incredible insights all around. What was one of the biggest surprises that you had along the way?
It was very positive, was the way in which the company really embraced this change. I think part of that one was just the collaboration of understanding their needs and then also understanding the direction that we believed would help grow the company. That cross-functional collaboration and their wanting to embrace all these different changes. I mean, because this was a significant amount of change in a very short amount of time, even though it was over the course of a few years. But that was a wonderful surprise to know that we had the backing of all of our partners across the organization, really rooting us on.
Yeah, I love that. And that's what you want, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's none of this matters unless you've got that
Yeah.
to be looking forward to. As we close out on our show today, we launched this Better At series to help sharpen their everyday skills and really build them into making a big difference. And I love this Better At series as a part of the conversation that we've had today, because it really ties into we marketers, the seasoned ones, not only always looking at becoming better at something, but helping our team members become better at as well. What's one thing that you've learned to be better at that's made a measurable difference in how you lead, work, and show up in your role?
The one thing that I think has been so incredibly impactful for the team, and I'm going to go back to that celebrating, is what we called a brag board. Where each of our team members, and sometimes we would do this on a monthly across or in our team meetings. Other times it was individual, but helping the team to recognize the things that they've done and accomplished in a way that we gave it a funny name, not to be arrogant or whatnot, but to really get to a position of being proud of saying, I did that. Here was the result. Here was the outcome. Even if it was a learning moment in which, say, a test didn't go as planned, they can still use that as a brag to say that I ran this test. It failed miserably, but now I know what direction to take us in, and I'm going to brag about that. And I think sometimes, especially for like younger teammates, starting their career, I don't think it necessarily comes naturally, that ability to say, this is what I did, here was the outcome, and I'm really proud of it. And so I would encourage others to try it with their teams.
I love it.
And to do it also personally, and to say, I'm going to lead by example and really highlight the things that I've done that I'm incredibly proud of, and not to shy away from that.
I love that. It's fantastic. And you've been fantastic today as well. So many incredible insights. What is the best way for our audience to get in contact with you?
So they can get in contact with me either through LinkedIn. It's my full name, Breanne Byrne, or they can feel free to email me, breanne.byrne@gmail.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
That's great. And if you'd like to get in contact with me, please email me, Lori, L-O-R-I, at StrategyCast.com. Bree, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you for your appearance.
Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun, Lori.
Thank you.
That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on today's show. We hope your strategic brains are spinning with new ideas and bold inspiration that will elevate your strategies and marketing know-how.